But give me some of your basic questions.
Well, I just have a question because I'm intrigued. I love intriguing titles. And I looked at your book and it says, take your best shot. So, in your opinion, what is it to take your best shot? What is it all about, taking your best shot?
Well, I have an answer for that. You could be the proud owner of this book, and you'll leave here knowing that you too can take your best shot. I can't give it justice in just a...
Okay.
Other questions?
So I have a question. I think I asked this before, but I want your opinion on this. So for the presentation I'm doing, I'm using PowerPoint. It's okay to use
Sure.
PowerPoint?
Mhm.
Just don't read it, rely on it too much.
Right.
It's not for me, it's for the audience.
Right. And you keep it brief, and
But do most speakers use PowerPoint?
most speakers do. Wouldn't say
Okay.
most professional speakers, but most speakers
Okay.
would have PowerPoints. And it's fine to have PowerPoints.
Okay.
People abuse them, yes. People are happy when someone doesn't have them at times.
I know.
But there's nothing wrong with them, it's just how they get abused over the years that people hate them so much.
So I have a question about the business model. I
Okay.
think because my talks are more like the inspirational model, the encouragement model, just how to be human, as opposed to how to make a lot of money or how to have great co-worker relationships. Not that I look down at that, I really do kind of look down at that.
That's okay.
But because I think, but so anyway, I'm in ProPath, and everything's about making the money, making the connection, and it's just a little bit problematic for me, not because I don't want to make money, that's fine, but I am more interested about someone having joy today than I am about making sure I get $500 so that happens in their life.
Okay.
So part of this question is, do I need to change my message in order to make money? And part of the question is, how do I narrow down my audience and how do I know where to go? Because the biggest model that NSA presents is make money, make money, make money. So I throw that out there like
Okay.
spaghetti to the wall. And
Well, I hear several things inherent in that question. One of the things I would say that you hear so much about money is that if you don't have any income, you can't stay in the business. I mean, you're not able to, no matter how much you're helping someone else, you can't do it any longer because you don't have any money that's going to allow you to be on the platform. I do think the essence of what you're saying, you're thinking that people should be about helping others, making a difference in the world, bringing them more happiness. And no one can argue that, and I would agree 100% that so many times we get lost in a monetary aspect. It seems like it's a big thing people think about, particularly in our society here. It's all about that in so many ways, even if it's not spoken. It's what you're driving or where you live, and there are all other aspects of it. At NSA, though, we don't teach, for the most part, but some, the presentation side of being a professional speaker. We sort of assume people have that. And we're more into how do you market it? How can you stay in the business? We have an industry, we have 35% turnover every year. There are no business barriers to entry.
right.
You can only get to print yourself a business card and you are a speaker. There's no test to take. There's no education required. Just say you're a speaker. So it is one of the easiest businesses to get in and one of the most difficult businesses to stay in because it's not long before you realize you need somebody to help you with some money here. And so that's where it gets back to how can I sell this? I don't know who your market is. Who is your market? Who are you trying to market yourself to? Or help? Who are you trying to help?
I mean, I can say, you know, like Mike Ween was in here and he made me get really specific. But so I said single parents of special needs children that are the age of between 9 and 13. you know, like, but really, it's you, it's my neighbor, you know, I mean, so my market is for people that potentially are stuck, people that are potentially waning on the area of hope, people that are needing help, who are in the deep end, you know, and that can be anyone, that's the dilemma.
Well, if you were at the top of the game, if you were where you love to be in 5 years and helping people, what would that
Well,
look like?
probably like what Tony Robbins does, really, you know, to do conferences, to have things that people can take home and listen to and
Okay.
reinforce and mentally change their practices, you know, that kind of thing, you know. So, because I like listening to him, and I love doing listening to TED Talks. So those are things that are, to me, mind changers, life changers, potentially soul changers, depending on the message. So,
Okay.
NLP,
huh?
like NLP, I mean, neuro-linguistic programming, I mean, just to change people's perspectives and things, yeah.
Well, to do that or to do any of it requires our being good at what we do. In this world, in our profession, for the most part, people's marketing skills in our industry is better than they are.
Right.
Go to the website, look at how they present themselves, look at what they're showing you, and hire them, put them on the platform, and they can't duplicate it. They're not as good as their marketing skills. And it really hurts the profession when somebody's brought on a platform and can't deliver. It's so much of an emphasis, like you said, about making money, that too many times the emphasis is not on getting good.
Right.
And that's what's required, whether you want to get money or if you simply only want to help people. No matter how good your message might be, if you can't deliver it in a manner that people enjoy, then it's over with. I mean, you've got to be good. One of the examples I have in my book, in 1928, I think it was, a man came up with a great medicine that would cure all these diseases, get all the people well from sickness. And his presentation skills were so bad that when he presented it, he was a medical doctor, scientist, to his peers, they blew it off, paid no attention to it. I think it was 11 or 12 years later, some students were doing some research and found his work and got together and said, wow, this is really good. And the following year, as a result of those students, Dr. Fleming, won the Nobel Prize in medicine for the invention of penicillin. He invented it 12 years earlier,
Wow.
but because of his poor delivery skills, the world went without it. So it's not just how good your content might be, it's how are you getting it through to the public. I mean, we saw today your example of yours. You got some powerful content. But for it to be maximized, you got to work on it. You got to make it rock and roll. One of the first things I tell people is somebody who's a new speaker, and I said, what I would suggest more important than anything else is to set an objective this year of a number of speeches that you would like to give. Much more important than the amount of money that you make. For instance, if you set your objective, we'll say, 50 speeches, whether it's free or whatever, no matter the environment, you will be a much better speaker in a year. It will be nothing more relevant, more helpful to be on your feet on a regular basis. There is that, we all noticed so quickly with Denise when she got up here, this woman's been here. Mm-hmm. She's done it, the relaxed, the confidence that was shown. So I always tell people, find you a way. Teach a Sunday school class, teach a gym class, or whatever, anything, no matter what the content might be, that will allow you to be on your feet in front of an audience on a regular basis. There's just a presence that one gains when they're able to do that. So if you get nothing else from my message today, find a way to get up on your feet regularly. Also, I've heard people over the years always smile when they hear this. People say, I'm never given the same speech twice. And when I hear that, I think to myself, then you aren't worth a crap. You're not good. So what do you mean? Well, when I first went to NSA, many years ago, I was fortunate enough to Cabot Robert, the founder, was there. There was a little small workshop with him. And he was talking about storytelling. He said, you can't begin to tell a story until you've told it 50 times. 50 times, 2 or 3 times, I can make it rock and roll. I'll be 50 times. I didn't even understand what the man was telling me. What he was saying is you can't maximize that story until you've told it 50 times. You know when to drop your shoulder, do this little move. and most of those are not planned in the beginning. Right. You're in front of the group and you accidentally go into that mode. And you say, whoa, that worked. Next time you'll make sure you do it again. And that's how your talk will evolve. So you want to get one good 40, 45 minute speech. And then do it everywhere you can. Everywhere. Every PTA group, Rotary Club, any group that will allow you to come in front of them and deliver, that's what you want to do. Because that's what's going to make you rock and roll. That's what will make you great. Not just, he was okay. It makes sense?
Yeah.
I'll go back into question mode right quick now. Question to you. Steve.
I think this is a continuation where Keller was bringing down too. Like when you first started speaking, like you weren't doing it for the money, you were doing it because of the love of doing it. Is that true?
Absolutely. I tell people even today, I would speak for free if I didn't need the money. You know?
Yeah.
I'd rather do what I do than be on vacation.
Wow.
I'd rather do it than be on a cruise in the Caribbean or anything. Nothing brings me more fulfillment and joy than to be on my feet in front of an audience. That is the excellent feeling that I can get. I mean, I can't get any better in my life. Yes.
No.
Oh, okay. People move a hand, I jump.
Sorry about that.
What is your suggestion if you're working on new material? And I was thinking about this because I've gone through it and Keller's making the transition from cards on the development of material to being actually ready to be able to give it without any cards or any help. What do you go through in order to develop a speech where you don't need any props, anything whatsoever? Is there a memorization process that you go through? How do you work on your material?
Well, I've never used any kind of notes, even though I have them. It's like when my daughter got married a couple of years ago, and I was at the reception that night, and one of my sisters says to me, "You ready for your speech? Father-daughter speech, whatever they call it." I said, "Yeah, I guess." And she says, "You got any notes?" I said, "Yeah, got them in my pocket." I said, "But if you see me go to them, you know I'm in trouble." Because I knew what I was going to say. So it's a matter of practice. So even every bit of that was new material, or I shouldn't say it that way. I had never done it before. But let me say this, some of the material I used were stories about her that I told before. So it was something that I knew was going to work. For instance, she married an undercover narcotics officer, and he looks the role. I mean, he has a full beard and tattoos all over his body. Here, things that make them big, and just weird looking guy. Weird looking. And he and his partner go for a drug bust down Southwest DeKalb in a trailer park. And they didn't know the exact address of the trailer, so they go to the manager's office, and they walk in and flipped out their badges. And the manager said, "Thank God, I thought y'all were trying to move in." I mean, even trailer parks have their standards. But my point is, you take material that you know that works, that you've used before when you can, and you add that in. One of the things that I worked with people over the years, a lot of people who are trainers, maybe some of your work, and then they get invited or asked to do a speech to a group. Now that is a thrill, but it's different than being a full-day trainer.
I know.
And one of the major differences between training and speaking or keynote speaking is everything has to be so tight in a speech, whereas a training, you win them over that morning, the rest of the day you own that audience. They love you. You can do anything you want to do. They're yours. But when you're in front of an audience for a speech, the whole thing has to be tight. There's no room for error. Well, most trainers have not done 45-minute speeches. And so they start to work on it. Okay, we'll do this and do that. And they get there, for the most part, they're uncomfortable because they've never done it before. And we're all uncomfortable the first few times we do new material. So what I've always advocated that they do is to start every workshop, every training class you got with the same opening. People will never say, well, that was mighty strong to start off a meeting. That's okay. You don't want to start off in the bathrooms or down the hall. No, you do that later. Get into it. And on that same note, you want to conclude the same way every time. So when you get asked to do a speech, you know you've got a dynamite opening and a dynamite close. Something you've rehearsed on a regular basis. Now, also into the development of material, I think this is relevant for all of you, is that when you're doing any kind of material that you've done in the past, you are happy when you get to certain segments, like the example you gave today on change. And you love it when you get there because you know you got some stuff that works. Well, you go through all the material that you have and you pull out what is the best stuff. And then, okay, how do I work with this? And we call those like 5 to 6, 7 minute vignettes. And so you're pulling out those that you have. You work around those. Like when I give a speech, many times I find out what the objectives of the group are. And then my main efforts in preparing is thinking about how I will connect the vignettes. What will be the segues to get me from this to that? The stories are going to be the same. I set them up and come out of them differently, but they're going to get the same story. You will know that I shot myself. No matter what you've hired me to do, that's coming out.
Yeah.
So there are certain material that you want to work on. Then the other thing I tell people, if you're a full-time trainer, I used to, I did a lot of training for a while, after lunch every day, I'd have storytelling time. Now most people, late back from lunch and all this, so there's never anybody going to complain if you start back at the appropriate time with some stories and some humor. So there I was able to perfect my humor, my stories on a regular basis. So I have my opening down, I got my closing down, now I got my humor stories that I've told multiple times. Bottom line on it is you want to come up with the 45 minutes talk that you know is a killer, that you know is good. And you can, like you were saying, okay, what about adding new material? That's always great. I've heard people say you always try something new every time. But when you're trying something new, make sure that you aren't trying new material back to back in a speech. You want to have something you know that's going to work on that sandwiches it, and something that you know is going to work on the ends. You open with a story that works. So don't have a lot of new stuff that you could die with. All right, more questions?
Well, that's what I was wondering. I think you just answered that, because I was wondering, you're so humorous. Like, do you, like they said to me, I want you to talk about this kind of topic. So then I'm trying to do you start with content and then you add in stories that flesh it out, or?
Well, I used to, so let me try to answer it in a different way. I used to tell people the difference between a humor speaker and a content speaker was that a humor speaker would find a story and then, okay, so what point does this make? Whereas a content speaker looked for material that would match their message. I used to always say that, but I no longer say that, because nothing is better than good stories. If you get a good story, you figure out how the hell you're going to make it work. You know what I mean? And there's always usually a way to make that story fit into what you're talking about. Sometimes you got to work at it to figure it out. But always, any humor should be relevant. I hate it when I hear like a pastor open with a funny story. It's got nothing at all to do with his message. That's wrong. I mean, because you can make it work. You could start with an elephant joke and say, well, the reason I told that because elephants are big, it's like the problem we're facing is big. You know, you can find a way to drag it in and make it work. But look for the stories. Where do you get your stories? I would also say, what are the stories that people ask you to tell at your family gatherings? What is it, you know, that you like to tell? Everybody likes to hear you tell. Look for those stories. Go back in your, do a diagram, a chart in your life, and look at each year what you were doing, and think about some of the stories, events which took place in your life. And you can begin to find new stories from your past. That's what was great about writing a book. When you write a book, you get more material that you can use in your speeches because it's stuff that you've forgotten. But writing forces you to go back and think of some of the things that you've done in the past. Now, there's an adage in the speaking profession. When I first got into, you have to be funny in order to be a professional speaker. No, only if you want to get paid. Well, now, that is not true. You don't have to be funny, but you do have to be entertaining. And for most people, the easiest way to entertain is from humor. But there are other ways. So make sure that you have entertainment value in your talk, or people, they're going to discount it. That makes sense?
Well, Ken, thank you very much. We are out of time.
Oh, that's awesome.
So, yep,
It was great. It was
really appreciate you being
But, and
here.
if you feel free to call me anytime if you have any
Do you
questions.
have a book?
Do I have a book?
Oh, yeah.
Funny that you should ask.
Yeah.
Take your best
What's
shot.
the difference between the DVD
This
and
is,
the book?
this is some
Ooh.
CD.
It's the same as the book. It's a 4-CD cassette there. I mean, 4 CDs, not cassette, for God's sake.
I have the book too, but I haven't.
And with that, you get the emphasis and inflection on what's important. And I also have
CD.
this is the DVD of, for the national keynote for our speakers. This is all speakers, so I'm speaking here. So, anyway.
Do you have another 4 CD audio?
Oh,
set?
yes, we
That's
got another one of those. So,
How much is it worth?
the book is on sale left $20. Signed.
Signed, sealed, delivered.
There you go.
All right. Okay, everybody, we will see you
I like what you said.
in June, whatever that day is.
And so
New
you're gonna be-
the new location.
So you're going to be sending an email with a new location?
Yes, and the next email that I'm sending